Hey everyone, welcome to another video. So today I want to talk about some of the characteristics of religiously abusive organizations, aka cults, and things of that nature. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. I want to talk about some of the characteristics of religiously abusive organizations, aka cults, and things of that nature. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. All right, so if you're anything like me, you're interested in psychology and about people in some way, shape, or form. I think that's one of the reasons why I chose to really pursue a degree in psychology, marriage and family therapy, was because I've always been interested in knowing what made people tick, but also I wanted to know more about, what people's motivations are and why they do what they do. So let's talk about some of the characteristics of a religiously abusive organization and what that looks like. And I'm going to be speaking in some ways from my own experience, but also from the perspective of reading some of the literature that currently exists about religiously abusive organizations. So when we think about religiously abusive organizations or cults, I think a lot of times people always ask, like, how does somebody get caught up into that? What would make you leave your home, your friends, and really step away and live this life that's different than the life that everybody else lives? And so I know in my background, that was a decision that my family made, or my parents made. I wasn't part of that decision, but we did live on a kind of compound of sorts where it was a nonprofit and there was a leader and there was a lot of rules that we had to follow. One interesting thing about the makeup of the compound, or the body of land that they had, was that individuals didn't get paid for their work. They were paid like a stipend when it came to volunteer activities. So there was no salaries, there's no money being exchanged. People were paid a stipend. So the company or the religiously abusive organization paid, the water, electricity bills, and paid for the upkeep of the place. And volunteers were paid anywhere between $200 to $400 per month for just personal expenses. However, their food and lodging were already paid for. So when you think about it, for a lot of people, that was a really good deal, because here you are, if you're working in the regular world, you're trying to make ends meet. Here you are, you're given a place in nature, you have your own space, but you also are working full time, and you're given a stipend for your personal needs. And for a lot of people, that can feel very soothing because it's a structured environment. There are a lot of rules. There's guidelines that you have to follow. And a lot of people find comfort in structure. When we think about routine and the habits that people have, a lot of what we do is really based out of habits. We don't necessarily think about it every single day that we do it. There's just things that we do out of habit. So having some of those daily needs met and not having to think about those things really did make the environment sort of peaceful in a way. Some of the rules that were part of that environment were that women had to wear skirts at least, I think it was 3 to 4 inches below their knees. We couldn't have anything that was more than 4 inches below their collarbone when it came to wearing blouses or tops. There was no pants allowed for women. Women were strongly encouraged to wear longer skirts, especially when they're walking or doing anything around the home. The only time that pants were really allowed was when they were doing some type of manual labor. That would make it just wouldn't work with, the needs of what they were doing. So additionally, men had a dress code of, not wearing name brand things. Surprisingly, but also not surprisingly, the men's dress code was very simple to follow. The women's dress code had a lot of measurements, no more than 4 inches below your knee, or no less than 4 inches below your knee, more than 4 finger lengths above your collarbone. Things couldn't be flashy, they couldn't be revealing, they couldn't be tight. And you were fined and you were talked to if you went against the dress code. Another aspect of that community was that they also had a very strict no dating rule. So nobody who worked for that organization could date each other. And if they wanted to date each other, they had to go to the leader of the group for permission to do so if they wanted to pursue a courtship of sorts. And so there was a lot of control to which is the understatement of the year. A lot of control that came along with that, and having to get somebody's permission to talk to somebody, or if you had any type of romantic interest in them. There was also the religious component of having to attend a worship twice a day, usually in the morning and evening, and sometimes there was a midday worship or gathering. This was something that we were pretty much used to, because growing up in my household, even before we moved to that that land, we had morning and evening worship every single day, and sometimes midday worship as well. And worship was really when we came together to pray and sing, and it took anywhere from 15 minutes to 2 hours. So you think about like the time investment that goes along with a 15-minute to 2 hour meeting every single day. So needless to say, any organization that really makes you question everything and doesn't support free thought is definitely not the organization that you want to be a part of. So when you're thinking about joining groups, when you're asking people questions, ask about, what the group's purpose is. Ask about what they're trying to gain, what their goal is. Ask questions. Understand that cults don't necessarily always start out as cults. It starts off as people wanting to do good things. It starts off as people wanting something different out of life for themselves, for their families. It starts off with some very, very positive attributes. People wanting to return to a simpler way of life. People wanting to kind of step away from technology, electronics, and really connect with family and their friends and nature. It comes with some pretty wrapping paper, but inside is just a can of worms, to say the least. So, there's a lot of great questions to ask. Be cautious, be careful, and, be cognizant of people who have charming personalities and, who are trying to gain followers of some sort. A lot of times these organizations are framed around one specific leader. And so, if there's not a lot of people that they're getting feedback from, if it's just one person that's in charge, that's typically a red flag. So something to keep in mind when you're living your life and thinking about, what a religiously abusive organization looks like and what a cult looks like. Look for the leader and look for the people that are following the leader. If there's blind trust and blind confidence, not a great sign. So thanks so much for watching. Please be sure to like and subscribe, and I will catch you on the next video.